All right. Welcome in, Toe. How's it going? I understand that you've got to be in a bit of a hurry, so we don't want to muck about too much with intros and all that. So if you are already here, then welcome in. We're just switching from team building mode into Toe interview mode. How was casting Worlds for you? That was definitely had to be a big achievement for you.
Oh, hey there. Yeah, first off, thanks for having me. Thanks for everyone watching. Yeah,
Yeah.
Worlds was a lot of fun. Uh, I think I really enjoy casting. I think I could have done honestly a bit of a better job at Worlds, but it was fun either way.
I think I managed to not see the mic there. Did you come up with a way to hide the mic in the world broadcast? Was that part of the green screen or the Zoom call? Because it
Yeah,
seemed like you
yeah.
didn't have that going on.
The virtual of background of the Zoom call also hit my mic, which is pretty interesting that was able to do that. To be honest.
That's kind of my favorite trademark of your streams anymore. Is when I tune in, I always see that mic dangling there by the USB cord, and I'm always worried. I've always wanted to get a shot of exactly what the contraption looks like that holds that up. But what would you say is your takeaway from Sylph season two? Aside from getting to cast worlds, how did you feel about how everything went? Obviously, you finished fifth in the world. You got your legend status, one of the five people who were able to do that. Did it feel different to you with the way that the structure was set up with the legend? Did it really give you something to fight for or shoot for, or did you kind of play it the same way you would have anyway, play the same number of matches, and it just has a new title on it?
Yeah, Sylph season two was way different than Sylph season one. I would say in season one I was fighting all the way, but in season two, when Corona came and we only were able to do remote tournaments, the fight kind of went away because I think local tournaments are like the funnest part. And so when we were only able to do the remote tournaments, I kept the tournaments kind of to a minimum. Just do my weighted every month. Sometimes a couple extra, but not that many. And just see where I ended up, pretty much.
Now we all know you're Dutch. Now, what do you live in, like a large metro area that has larger tournaments when you were doing them in person, or do you have to travel for them, or are they small?
I do live near a big city of Rotterdam. I live just on the border, but we don't get big tournaments. I think the largest tournament we've had in Rotterdam was 24 players, something like that. But usually we get 4 rounds, which is fine. There's a city like I think 40 minutes away. Or no, I have to travel like an hour, but it's they usually get 5 rounds, so I usually do that one as well. But usually when local tournaments are there, we do in Netherlands we do a thing we call them tournament trains, um, and we pretty much organize 2 or 3 tournaments on the same day at different times,
Oh,
but
that's smart.
on at train stations.
Oh,
So we usually start at like 10 a.m., 11 a.m. in the morning at one train station. We do a tournament there, and then we travel to another train station. We do another tournament there, and then somewhere in the evening we travel to another train station. We do a tournament there, and that way we kind of help the smaller local communities out and get some players to their tournaments, which
does
is always fun.
now obviously you post a really high win rate, so that's the main thing that matters. But does that kind of thing, when you're doing the multiple tournaments in one day, when you're doing the in persons, kind of help increase your tournament count or your round count? Obviously, you're not going to get them all in one, but did you do that for that purpose as well, or was it beneficial or not?
I mean, it definitely helps with your round count and maybe your win rate. I don't know. I feel our community is pretty strong, so I always have a tough time winning those tournaments. Uh, but the main reason is just because it's a lot of fun. I always go with the same couple friends, and the local guys are always great. So and we usually do. Well, one time we should go with the train, but one time we did the tournament train in the north of the country. Usually do them in the south of the country. but we did them in the north of the country one time, and we had to travel with bus, and we had way longer travel time. So we actually did like auto rec tournaments between the Sylph tournaments on the way there, which was pretty awesome. So it's mainly for the community.
I just like how you've got two different kinds of tournaments going that both involve modes of transportation, but neither the stereotypical Dutch bicycle. Have you ever done that?
Yeah, I definitely no. Well, not on a tournament, no. But I usually play on bicycle when I'm catching Pokemon.
So how is the area that you live for playing Pokemon? Is it relatively good? Do you have anything to do with how good it is, or is it just kind of some other players that are ingress players that have built it up?
It's pretty average. I think it's above average actually. It's pretty good. Our Pokestop density is not that high, but if I want a lot of Pokestops, I can easily travel to the city, and there's a lot more there. But I have some good cluster spawns around here, so I can catch a lot of Pokemon, and I definitely have nothing to do with that. There are a couple really high like hardcore ingress players here that have created a lot of Pokestops. I even got one to create one at my house. So
Oh, geez.
that's awesome.
uh, so how long have you been playing the game since start, or were you somebody who got into it closer to when it was PvP and you saw that as something fun and such?
I began at launch, but at the time I didn't have a phone that could run Pokemon Go. But I had an iPad, but it didn't have GPS, so I could play
Oh,
for like two
jeez.
minutes, and then it would tell me GPS not found, and I couldn't play anymore. So I did play a little bit with a friend on his phone. We would walk around, and he would play, and I would get kind of jealous because my phone couldn't handle it. So a month after launch, I got a new phone, and I really got started. And yeah, that's when I fell in love with the game pretty much. And I took a couple breaks in between, especially I think the months before PvP. I didn't really play much, but then PvP was announced, and I decided to get back into it because it's a feature that I was looking forward to for a very long time.
What kind of phone do you use now? I always kind of cringe when I think about the phone that Wild Susan Boyle affectionately calls his potato that he manages to win with. And some people say, oh, having a better phone helps. Do you have like a fancy phone that's really good at playing the game, or do you just have a phone that isn't the greatest?
I have a pretty average phone. I have a Xiaomi Pocophone F1. It's for its price, it's a really good phone.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
But,
I
but
think I
it's
know
it's
the.
still a budget phone pretty much.
I don't know if they even sell those here. I know that Huawei we can't buy in the States because of supposed security issues, but I think you can still buy Xiaomi's. Um, so what was it like when you actually started doing PvP? Were you on it from Boulder Cup? Were you part of the people that were really trying to get it going already that early, or were you more later on when you were doing the train tours kind of stuff that you got involved in it?
I was on it from before Boulder Cup. I was already playing matches with friends, but yeah, luckily I wasn't part of the group that organized the Boulder Cup, but I was very lucky that my local group was also excited, and they decided to organize a Boulder Cup, and so I participated there. And well, that's when the matches I did before were more casual for fun, and that's when I became like kind of serious about it, and wanting to win actually. So yeah, the Boulder Cup was awesome, and it just continued from there.
And how many people did you get at your first Boulder Cup? Do you remember?
It was 4 rounds. I think we got like 12, something like
I'm
that.
pretty sure we had to drag in an eighth just to have a legal tournament the first time, somebody who didn't really like to PvP. Um, so how what would you say? Obviously, you are very practiced and polished at the game. I think practice probably means more in the game than anything, right? I mean, just
Yeah.
repetitions and knowing your matchups. What would you say are your strengths and weaknesses beyond that in terms of PvP? Obviously, you can't have too many weaknesses since you're as good as you are, but surely you have some things you'd want to work on.
I think my strengths are like counting moves, knowing when to swap to catch a charge move, really getting the maximum amount of farm I get, and throw my charge move right before they throw theirs, just by energy management, pretty much. I think one thing I can work on is like my team calling. I am pretty bad at calling my opponent's leads, or calling their line of three, or acting on it pretty much. I usually I'm a pretty I would say I'm a pretty safe player. So even if I know 100% sure that they're gonna lead a shadow victory bell or something, I might still not lead my Skarmory just because if it's like a what you call it, a way too aggressive lead or something,
Right.
because I might not have any plans for if they don't lead Shadow Victory Bell. So I can definitely improve on just calling my opponent's lineup.
So is it more that you don't call the lineups as well, or that you just don't act upon it because you sound like you're kind of risk averse, like you like to
Yeah,
play like a maximal percentage winning strategy or something, as opposed to playing your gut and saying that you're going to do what would be optimal there.
that's exactly it. Yeah.
So what is the scene like where you are in terms of other battlers? Are there any other names that folks would know that are from the Netherlands that have emerged as far as Sylph rankings and the GBL rankings, or is it mostly you?
It's mostly me, but there are a couple other names. I think a lot of them fly kind of under the radar. You know, they don't really have social media, or they don't really participate in the big stadium tournaments. But they're definitely very good. And a couple names people might know are like Nikovic, or Ovino Manser, Engineer Surin. They are pretty good battlers that have done some. Oh, and Marco to survive. He he's really good. People might know him from the Paris Battle Tower, where he barely didn't he made the finals, but he unfortunately lost to Michael in that round.
Was that the one that when you say Michael, was that the young kid
Yeah,
that? Okay.
yeah, the young kid from Germany.
Okay. Yeah. So obviously you've taken to streaming recently, and you seem to have taken to that quite naturally. I really enjoy watching your streams. They're always a lot of fun, and one of the things that's most noteworthy to me is that you don't seem to get overly frustrated by the game. Like, there'll be times when it seems like you're a little frustrated, but maybe it's just the friendly Dutch demeanor that I'm saying that you have. Maybe it doesn't translate the same, but you always seem like you're just kind of like whatever about it. If something goes wrong, you just kind of laugh it off. Do you get overly frustrated by this game?
I would say usually not really. Um, I think I do. I think I get more frustrated off stream than on stream, to be honest. But only for like technical issues with the game, if like lag and desync and stuff like that, just frustrates me. But if people outplay me or whatever, I am more than happy to lose usually.
So what do you think contributes to the? I mean, sometimes you just see people that are hyper competitive. It seems like a lot of them are considering stepping away from the game. Is that anything that's ever crossed your mind in a serious way, or would you say there's something different about your mindset that has just meant you're just kind of riding it out?
Well, I don't know. I just love playing the game. That's it. And I could honestly care less about my performance, or whether I win or lose, as long as the games are fun. And I think that's where my mindset might differ than others, because other top players might care about actually winning more. I don't know.
And in terms of the mechanics of the game that frustrate everybody, and that have kind of chased some folks away, what do you think it would take in terms of how long it takes to fix this stuff, and how many desyncs or lags you have to sit through before you might lose the joy for the game and try and find some other less broken Pokemon game.
Yeah, it usually takes so long to fix, which is so unfortunate. Um, I think what frustrates me more though is that there's usually like no communication.
Right.
Like we didn't hear any updates about desync until like a week before it was fixed, which is like two
Right.
months after it arrived into the game. And honestly, if it would have lasted any longer, I don't think I would have been able to stay in the game for much longer. Well, thing is, I even with a desync, I still enjoyed Go Battle League just because it's more casual. I don't, but Sylph, I'm more competitive, so I stopped Sylph already because of desync. Because I really couldn't handle it. I just got way too frustrated in Sylph. But if it would have lasted any longer, I probably would have had to quit the Go Battle League as well.
Yeah. In terms of format, what would you say is your favorite format to actually battle in, between GBL, Sylph, the team stuff, the just anything?
Definitely, it's between Sylph and the Go team up that Go Stadium always organizes. Those are the most fun. Pretty much, actually, any format with show six, I think it's pretty amazing. GPL, I mean, blind format is just a bit too random for me.
Where do you see kind of the streaming scene going in terms of battles? We've seen a huge explosion with GBLs, with folks like yourself, high profile battlers, you or FP Sticks and the Elite Four guys, joining uh, Twitch and just streaming all your battles, and people can't get enough of that. Do you think that that's something that is sustainable? Do you think that a lot of these people will move over to other kinds of battles, or do you think it's more about wanting to watch the best do the stuff that they can get tips on?
I think a majority of the player base, there's a bigger part of the player base that plays GPL and or than like Sylph. So there are a lot more viewers in that area, and I think a lot of streamers they know that. So streaming GPL is just a lot more productive. Um, for myself, it's also just it's way easier. It's way more casual. Um, and I was considering streaming Sylph, but like I want to win as well. So you don't want to give away all your strategies, um, which I don't really care much about in GBL. So I think there are a lot of high level streamers that think the same way. Um, yeah, so we might see some more Sylph action in the future, uh, but I think a lot will just stick with GBL.
Does it ever get difficult to keep up with both at the same time, kind of the self metas and the GBL stuff, which seems to change on a daily basis, or just the fact that you don't care as much about the GBLs, you just kind of let that go a little bit and just rely on your skills?
Yeah, I'm definitely in GBL. I don't really do much planning or I don't spend hours building a team. Uh, I just start my sets and and just see where it goes. Uh, and switching up my team is done in like I pick my teams in like 30 seconds usually for GBL because it's just for fun. I mean, Sylph is just for fun as well, but I try to be a bit more competitive there. So I take there's a lot of research that goes into Sylph for sure, but not into GBL.
Do you find, for someone who does tend to perform well in GBLs, that you've noticed that you have more or less resources in terms of Stardust from getting the Stardust from GBLs versus building stuff that you might not have built in the first place?
Yeah, I mean the starter solves a problem, but I just built whatever I want. pretty much. I've been around the sub 1,000 starters range for a while, or not for a while, a bunch of times. And well, the dust I get from GBL definitely helps with rebuilding that.
Now you talked about how the live tournaments are where you really have the most fun, and that Corona changed a lot of that. I know that having talked to Angelino and several other top battlers, that they talk about trying to get their weighted in at the end of the month versus the beginning, and kind of waiting to see where the meta goes, watching other people. And you'll have other people who will have the opposite approach, where they really like to kind of use their own brain and jump on the meta immediately when they think they've got it figured out better than anybody else. Where do you fall on that spectrum in terms of how you like to get your weighted in each month?
I think I don't really care when I do my weighted. Usually, I've done them on the first day of the month. I've done them on the last day of the month. I've done them in the middle of the month. I don't think. I think I'm pretty good with figuring out the meta at the beginning. So that's I can get my edge there in the beginning of the month. But I'm also very good at optimizing my gameplay. With enough practice battles, I really get to know the matchups very well. So that's where I can get my edge in at the end of the month. So honestly, I don't think it really matters for me.
So what is your approach when you see a new meta to actually solving it? Do you have other people that you rely on to bounce ideas off of? I know that you do a lot of battles with Arrow and the like, but uh, do you do more reliance on your own thought process or other people?
I usually the first days I just rely on my own thoughts process. I usually don't do many practice battles in the first couple of days. I just check out the meta, build a bunch of teams, look where the holes are, that sort of stuff, and then I'll get into practice battles. And I'm lucky to have a big group of battlers, of high level battlers that want to battle, that know the meta, that want to discuss. So we just bounce IDs back and forth, and then I usually can end up with a good team after enough repetitions.
Which meta has been your favorite since you started battling?
I think some of my favorites were. It's hard to pick one for sure. All have like different aspects, and that's what I really like about Sylph. I think one of my favorite for just pure gameplay wise was Sinister, because it's just such a like a format where like the lead didn't matter at all. Every Pokemon was so flexible. Uh, like you could win a game by using an Earthquake with your Steelix on a Poliwrath, which is just amazing. Always feels good. But another one that I really liked was Rose, just because Rose was so different than every other meta.
Right.
Uh, and I feel like Rose was a really misunderstood meta. Uh, Lots of people thought it was RPS, that like the Pro Pass Charm Marowak core was just too strong. But I dropped Charm after a week of Rose, and that was the best decision I made, and that made the battle so much more fun.
So between Sylph and say these team tournaments where you have maybe more of a unique team building style, do you prefer open meta or closed meta?
I think I prefer closed, just because the meta is a little more predictable, so you can anticipate a bit more the meta, and change your team according to what you think the meta will be. And in open you can usually see anything, so you will always have a hole. And if you face the team that uses exactly the Pokemon that you're weak to, like you can have a really rough time. Whilst in a close meta, that's you can build a more general team, maybe a bit more spicy team, and still be all right.
What have been some of your favorite mons to battle with? I assume Great League is where you prefer to battle, just because you prefer Sylph.
Definitely, yeah, yeah. I love. Sableye has always been an awesome one to use in whatever format it is, especially in Open Great League. And I think we haven't seen it that much in the Silver Arena tournaments this season, unfortunately. But I did use it in a lot in Voyager and Rose, which was awesome. And besides that, just anything with like high energy generation is awesome. Also, months like Frostlass, which we saw in Fusion, was a really fun month to use, and things like Shift Tree were always fun.
What do you think about stuff like Return Sableye or certain legacy mons that are desirable, and the aspects of the game that brings into it, where they're either difficult to acquire or frustrating to get good IVs on, that sort of thing? Do you think that adds to the game in terms of a challenge that's outside of PvP, or do you think it detracts because you just come for the PvP primarily, and it's kind of annoying to have to deal with?
I think it definitely detracts from the overall PvP aspect of the game, just because like you're usually not on even footing with your opponent if you have it or if you don't, which is not a good thing for a balanced PvP scene. I think.
What can you think of any ways that they could take what we have now and improve that sort of situation to make it more even?
I mean, I guess we have elite DMs now, which is kind of a fix for it. But of course, they're expensive. It's a paywall. It pretty much made the legacy moves kind of pay to win, I guess, which is not great. The other option would be to just add them back into the move pool, or and I would be okay with that. Just remove them from the move pool entirely. Certain legacy moves.
What do you think that the Niantic thought process is in something like a Return Sableye that is something that wasn't necessarily viewed as a big deal? I think maybe you popularized it for the most part, and now that it's popular, they clearly know it's popular because they brought it back for GoFest. But now it's still, I don't even know if you can get it, but you certainly can't get it as easily. Uh, what do you think that they do in terms of analyzing how to manage that kind of stuff, which in that case isn't even elite TMable? It seems like it's not catering to the PvP crowd, really.
Yeah, yeah. Sableye, it's a tough one because you can't elite DM it. I think another one. I think another point is maybe the shadow mons.
Right.
The balancing with shadow mons, like you can't after the event is done, you can't get them anymore. So and how Niantic balances it, I don't think. I don't think they do much. They do much balancing. They probably usually I think they just roll out mons and then they look at PvPoke when Matt updates it. Just like everyone does, and then they might do a last minute change if there's like a PvPoke tweet that says it's OP. Yeah, I don't think well it certainly doesn't look like they do much balancing. Though I must say, maybe that's a bit harsh. The When they did the grass update, when they buffed Bullet Seed and gave Ludicolo Energy Ball, and I don't know what else they gave. That was a good update. So they do a certain amount of balancing, um, but unfortunately, it usually seems after the fact.
Right. It seems one of the observations that someone was making the other day was that it seems like the move set updates they are making are slightly more subtle for the most part recently. Do you think that's a better direction to go than to just instantly make moves overpowered, like lock on or things like that?
Oh, that definitely helps. Definitely helps uh, because it's just a smaller change, so less likely that they'll mess up.
One of the things, especially with the increased prevalence of charge TMs being available to people, that I've always wondered is why the Mons can't have a larger move pool. How would you feel from that standpoint? Because you're someone who says you value the predictability of the meta. If suddenly, Mons on average got like 5 different fast moves or something like that, would you feel like that was a more interesting challenge if there were truly lots of viable move sets on lots of different Mons, or do you think that would make it a little bit too unpredictable?
I think it might be too unpredictable. Um, but it always depends on the meta, I guess. If it was like 5 fast moves, that's quite a bit. Especially if you add like a lot of charge move to that's like a lot of coverage, and especially in a game like Pokemon Go, I think there are not that many avenues to get an edge. So if you have to rely on the unpredictability of your move set, that's kind of, I think, would be a cheap way to get an advantage, um, which is good. It's always good to have be predictable with your move sets, uh, but it might only work once, which is too bad. And I think as an opponent, if my opponent would run unpredictable move set, you lose one battle because of the move set. It always feels kind of bad because you might have played better. I don't know how to say it, but it moves the um, the win condition from actually playing well to just being lucky that your moves will hit sometimes.
Right.
I think
It kind of
that
goes.
makes sense.
I just remember it harkens me back to the one time that the two of us faced off, and in the last match you had Blizzard on your what was it? Was it Blizzard
Yeah.
on?
Yeah. I mean, that was the Forest. I think Forest was a really rock paper scissors format,
Right.
in my opinion. So in that case, I really relied on the unpredictable move set just to get an edge there. That was just the only way, I think, to win there consistently.
When you are approaching kind of building your teams and deciding which mons to build, how much reliance do you place on PV poke as opposed to other methods that people use? Obviously, everybody knows that PV poke is an unbelievable tool, and eventually people will run sims to figure out certain matchups and the advantages they can gain. But I think a lot of top players probably think that the rankings themselves don't mean a whole lot in the greater scheme of things. What do you do to kind of dig beneath the rankings?
I definitely use PV Poke a lot. Definitely for team building, it's very useful. Uh, but yeah, you always have to take the rankings with a grain of salt. Same with the threat score. It's not always very representative of the strength of your team. So I do a lot of practice battles alongside that, and just try out different mons and decide if I find them any useful, if I find them any useful myself. And usually based on my experience with the Pokemon, and in combination with the PvPoke rankings, I can come up with a decent team.
When you look at the records of the folks who are up there in legend status, like yourself, in terms of Marto and Ventusky, and we have, what is it, CCO and one other.
Fanny.
Yeah, and so obviously Ventusky was the only one of those to be one of the world's finalists. What do you think in terms of the dynamics that play out for somebody to just have a consistent winning record versus winning something like that? And do you think that you are you going to shoot to do that next year?
Um, well, I mean, we're playing Pokemon Go, and it's impossible to have a 100% win rate.
Right.
Um, so I think it's, in my opinion, I mean, I'm biased because I didn't qualify for Worlds. So I think it's way more impressive to have a consistent win rate than win one of those events. just because there's a certain amount of chance involved in the game. Um, but it's definitely still a massive achievement to win continentals and qualify for worlds. I mean, you're an amazing player if you reach that. And of course, that's my goal as well. That was my goal this season. Unfortunately, I barely missed out. And next season, that will be my goal again. But I'll take next season will be a more casual season for me. So I might not reach it. We'll see.
Now you say it's going to be a more casual season. Is it based on uh, the game being stressful, or is it based on real life commitments? I know you're in school, but I don't know like the details of what part of school you're in.
Yeah, I'm in university and I'm in my last semester. So I've got some stuff to focus on, uh, and after probably also finding a job after that. So yeah, I've got some real life commitments to
Do you
take
mind do you
care
mind
of.
me asking what you're studying?
No, sure. I study mechanical engineering.
Oh, very cool. Um, so if you weren't other than the Sylph World Champ, what would be your goal for next season if you had to pick one?
Uh, Travel to I don't know, some country and do a 7 round tournament. That's my goal. Doesn't matter what country, just some country I've never been in.
So for the folks that are as serious about the game as you are, a lot of them like to use the word esport pretty liberally, and they really want Pokemon Go to be an esport. A lot of people define that differently. You say you take a more casual approach to the game. You just like to have fun with the game. It just obviously you have goals, but more than anything, you just have fun with it. What do you see as the future you'd like PvP to have, and maybe the future that you think PvP will have in terms of that competitive scene versus like a community scene, like a fun scene?
I do really like the scene we have now, the community scene, and I'd love to see that grow. I'd love to see more people join us. That would be my ideal scene. But I'd also like to see some Niantic organized tournaments besides that. Like uh, that would be great. But honestly, in my eyes, not required because the self tournaments at the moment are just a lot of fun. What I think will happen, I don't think much will change the next at least year. I think we'll stay at least the same as we are now. Uh, maybe we'll see a bit of growth in Sylph just because a lot of people are interested in GBO at the moment, and I might be able to peel people from there into Sylph. But as far as uh, tournaments organized by Niantic go, I think that's gonna take some time if it happens at all.
Yeah. Uh, who is the toughest practice partner that you have? I have a feeling that I have a guess, but you're of your usual practice partners, who is
Oh,
your toughest?
who's your guess?
I was just gonna say Arrow because you practiced with him so much, but I don't know.
Arrow is definitely a good practice partner. He has a I do really like practicing with him because he has a very different play style to anyone I play. Um, like he just hard predicts my lineup usually, which is tough to come back from, but it's good practice. But I think my toughest practice partner is the Nut
Okay, I
from
saw he was
from Germany.
on your stream today.
Yeah, he's really good, and he's one of my the person I practice with the most usually. The person I built the most team with, and he's just amazing at the game. Very good energy management. I say we have a really similar play style, which usually makes for pretty fun battles. And then another one is House Stark. We play also play kind of similarly, but he plays slightly differently, which is also a lot of fun. And our battles are always really close.
You talk about the arrow calling your leads and the like, and you talked before about how some metas have been kind of downplayed as being rock paper scissors. What do you think could be maybe altered in the current game dynamics to make the game itself not lend itself to that rock paper scissors dynamic a little more? Maybe we always hear the term skill gap passed around, and I kind of jokingly always say it's just who knows the glitches in the game right now better than other people do. And I wonder what kind of maybe more optimal and obvious things you could do to create a skill gap that you could see.
I think one thing might be shortening the switch cooldown, because currently if you swap out, you're stuck for 60 seconds, which is, especially in Great League, is enough for your hard counter to swap in and destroy you. So having like maybe a 30-second switch timer would allow you to swap out before you die, even before your hard counter kills you, unless it's like a victory bell on a swampert. But the side sets, you can usually swap out before if the timer would be 30 seconds, you could swap out before you get fainted, which would be, I think it would, in my opinion, be a good improvement.
What do you think generally about the hard hitting fast moves and the shadow mons, in both in terms of whether you like to use them and in terms of whether you think that the way they're handled right now is good for the game?
I do really like shadow mons. Well, I like using them in GPL mainly, because they're just fun. They're different. They hit hard. They're unexpected. I don't know how much damage they do personally, so that's exciting. And my opponent usually doesn't either, so that gives me a bit of an edge. But considering they're so, and I'm talking about the not the charm and the razor leaf shadow mons, because I think those are just awful. They are so RPS. Like, get them in the right matchup and you win. Get them in the wrong matchup and you lose pretty much. And especially in GBL or yeah, it's just so unpredictable. I mean, you can't predict what they're gonna lead, so it just turns into a game of chance. But like ones like Shadow Sableye or Hitmonchan, they're pretty fun because they just have slightly different matchups. But considering they're so hard to get,
Right.
I don't think they should be allowed in Sylph, in my opinion. Because just even though you don't have to use them, you usually don't have to use them in your team. Still, the premise of not having them versus having them gives the players that have them an advantage, because they have a larger pool of mons to choose from. Pretty much.
Yeah. So do you think that the fundamental issue with the availability of stuff is that more people who don't play the game hardcore should have access, or just the fact that even if you're trying really hard, you can only grind out so many shadow mons and you may still not get good IVs? Which one is more your mindset?
I think it's a bit of both. I think we want to be we want the new players to be able to join PvP and at least be on an even footing with the rest of the player base from the start, and that's just not really the case right now, because you, for one, you miss a lot of community day moves, of course, but then you also miss shadows, and even if you're a hardcore player, you might not have all the shadows, or you might not have good IVs, because like the first month of shadows, they were not good in PvP, because you could, well, for one, you could not TM away frustration, and the 20% damage boost was not applied in the first month, so no one knew that we should prepare some good ones.
Not to mention the cost of the second move at the beginning.
yeah. Oh yeah. That used to be really bad, and also for powering up, of course. Yeah. Like I didn't have a shadow shift tree, for example, until GoFest, And I think there are a lot of, because it was only available in the first couple months, and then when they did the first Team Rocket event, it was already gone for a while. And
Have,
there are multiple of those that have only been available in the first couple months, but not after, and you just can't get them anymore, which
what's
is unfortunate.
what's been your experience in terms of the real life events? Have you been able to go to, say, I'm assuming maybe the ones in Dortmund, and have you gone to any other live events?
I've only been to Dortmund actually last year, and I didn't even go to GoFest.
Oh wow.
I no, I you know I wasn't gonna go to GoFest unless I had a place at Continentals. But my regionals were after you were supposed to order the tickets. And I honestly, I wasn't expecting to win regionals. Like I thought I was. I mean, I was pretty good at the game. I won all of my local tournaments, but I just thought there were probably better people than me. But I ended up winning my regionals. But I didn't have a ticket for GoFest, so yeah, I just decided to go to Continentals anyway. So I just went on Saturday to Dortmund for Continentals, and I really do regret it because all the events alongside GoFest, like all the tournaments there, the open qualifiers, the huge European tournament that came the day after Continentals, they looked so much fun. So I was planning to go this year, but with the situation in the world right now, unfortunately, everything had to be postponed.
Since I obviously don't keep up with each individual country, what is the current situation in terms of restrictions and such in your area?
In the Netherlands, it's quite all right now. We still have like outside we have to keep distance, but we are allowed to go outside just whenever we want. In stores, we have to keep distance. Some shopping malls have like restrictions. You have to wear a mask there, but not everywhere. Um, and we still some gyms and sports centers are closed, uh, but we are slowly opening up again.
I know that the sponsors vary by region in terms of uh, who does the sponsorships. You've got the situation in Mexico and maybe some other Latin American countries where 7-Eleven has been putting on those paid tournaments,
Yeah, those are big.
you had, I know you guys in Europe had certain malls maybe that had them. What is the situation for sponsorship there, and is there any sort of different scene than what we see in the US, which is pretty much like we know people play the game, but it's not, you almost wouldn't know it from the sponsorship standpoint.
Yeah, we don't really have much sponsorship here. Yeah, we used to have I think we still have the malls. Uh, I know there was a mall in the Netherlands that had a deal with Niantic. We had like a, I don't know, not a safari zone, but there was like a week where there were some special spawns there. But that mall has, like, the deal was ended like a year ago.
Right.
And I think there might be another one. There were a couple more spread around Europe, but I don't know the situation there. But I don't think the events they had there were very interesting.
If you had to kind of describe the overall European PvP scene, would you say that uh, it compares to either Latin America or the US or Japan? It obviously is a much more diverse area. Like, you've got a lot of different country borders and the like, and I'm wondering whether you see like a market there, like they apparently saw in Latin America, to start building kind of these cash prize situations.
I think we're a lot more spread out here in Europe. What you see in Latin America. They already had big tournaments before the sponsorships, and here we don't regularly get huge tournaments. I think most areas they get like 4 or 5 rounds max, and then there are a couple areas like London or Mainz in season one that got like 6 rounds, but those were really rare. Luckily, we've been able to get an 8 rounder in season one in London and a 7 rounder in Paris. But those were like huge events, and I don't think we can't manage to do that every month, unfortunately.
Obviously, the COVID situation has changed everybody's expectations in terms of the kinds of tournaments that we will get. What would you say are your realistic goals once we get back to live tournaments in terms of what sort of scene you expect to see?
Yeah, I don't know what to expect. It all depends on if the good friend battling requirement stays, or we go back to ultra friends. I think if it stays at good friends, which I would like, just because I can battle anyone right now, but it would probably mean that less players would be interested in local tournaments, maybe because you can always do an online tournament. So we might see a bit of a drop in live tournament participation. But on the other hand, there are also more players now, so I think it will stay around the same. My expectation, I would be happy with just doing like four rounders live tournaments. It would be fun.
Have you specifically noticed anything that you've either done differently or just the way that your ranking has been reflected when it comes to the smaller number of battles you used to do versus the number you can do now? Whether you like the remote tournaments or not, they obviously bring you a lot more opportunities for large tournaments. Do you change what you do, or do you just kind of treat them all the same and just get in as many as you can?
Well, I would say I treat them all the same. But a 4 rounded weighted has a lot less pressure than a 7 rounded weighted. That's for sure. So I think I definitely perform differently, even though I try to treat them all the same. But yeah, I think they're all. I think I try my best in all of them. It really doesn't matter that much for me. I think the one change I did see, I was doing 4 rounded weighteds before 4 and 5 rounded weighteds before the big remote tournaments happen. And once the big remote tournaments happened, and I was able to get in some 7 rounders as well, my ranking just shot up because those extra rounds in your weighted tournament, they really matter.
Where did you finish season one? I don't think I know what your final rank was.
I finished ninth.
Okay. Let's see. What would you say is your favorite underrated mon in Great League? One that doesn't show up so high on the PV poke list, but that you think punches above its weight, or that you just know how to use really well?
I think right now it might be Empoleon. I think Empoleon has a really solid place in the meta. It's really flexible with drill pack, being able to hit back against his hardest counters, like the fighters or grass. Hydro Cannon just hits very hard overall. Going neutral, it goes pretty neutral with Azumarill, which is always a good thing. And it can also beat Galarian Stunfisk, which is pretty big. So I think Empoleon is definitely an underrated pick.
My guests always have certain questions they want me to ask, how big is pizza in the Netherlands? Is that even do you guys eat a lot of pizza, or is it just kind of not super common?
Oh, we like our pizza. We like our pizza definitely, but it's mostly like a fast food thing. I guess it's fast food everywhere, but yeah, we do like our pizza.
Have you traveled enough or had the opportunity to have either New York or Chicago style pizza?
No.
Okay, because that's always a
Definitely
debate
not.
here. How about pineapple on pizza? Is that something that you believe is okay, or that's a no?
Definitely, yeah. I like pineapple on pizza. It's good.
What about what is your favorite homegrown Dutch delicacy?
Ooh, we don't have a lot here.
No, food's not
No,
the not what you're known
we're
for.
not really known. Well, I think the couple foods we have are like stampot, which is like mashed potatoes and vegetables, pretty much. That's or that's pretty much or culture. But in terms of like delicacies, yeah, there's not much. I think stroopwafels are probably the best.
So you are a fan of the stroopwafel. It's not overrated.
No, it's good. It's really good.
Um, what Pokemon are you most excited to come out in the future? And I always say bonus points if it's not Jellicent.
Oh, I was gonna say Jellicent. But besides Jellicent, I'm not really. I think I really like the evolution of Inkay, Malamar.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, but it's mainly because of the evolution mechanic in the main games. Because you had to hold your 3DS upside down in order for it to evolve,
Oh,
which
that's where
which
that
was
comes from.
just that was so interesting to me, and it was also my first shiny I ever got in ever actually, and I got it in Pokemon X and Y, which was pretty epic. So yeah, I think Malamar.
What is your full history with the or not full history, but what's your overall history with the Pokemon main series? It sounds like obviously you played a fair amount.
I started in Diamond and Pearl. Um, and I played that game a bunch, like a lot. Um, and then I kind of after that, I think it was I played Hard Gold, Soul Silver as well, and then I took a little break for a while, and then when X and Y came out, I played it quite a bit. I dabbled into competitive as well for a couple months, but I wasn't that good, but it was fun. Uh, and then then it was kind of a break again. I did play Sun and Moon, but the games were so easy. The games were so easy. It was not even fun. So I stopped playing the main games. I considered getting Pokemon Let's Go, but again, the reviews, the game was just too easy.
Right.
And when the game is so easy, like I might as well just watch a movie. So it wasn't worth buying the Switch in the game for me.
Yeah. Um, I know. Just let me know whenever you've got to go because I know that you have only got about an hour total, so I
Yeah,
don't want to go over.
I have like 5 minutes. So
Okay, sounds great. We have our unusual viewer who always wants to know whether our guests have seen the movie Little Women, the 2019 version. I'm gonna guess the answer is no.
Little Women, no.
I,
What's it about?
It's classic American literature that's been made into a movie several times, but it's just a meme question at this point. What is the source of the was it Ludkip? Is that what you have as your logo behind you?
Yeah,
Was that from the Pokemon mashup site? Is that
it is.
Yeah.
I had a Digital Ludicolo as my avatar for the longest time. Um, but in one of the servers I'm a part of, we have a bot, and you can just yeah, and you can just like with a command like it's like merge Ludicolo Mudkip, and it pulls data from the mashup site and pastes the picture there. And I was actually just with some with some other people on the server, we were just spamming that bot, just making random mashups, and the Ludkip came up, and well, it looked amazing. So I put it as my avatar, and it was kind of a meme, but it stuck around.
Do you speaking of memes, do you still do the coffin dance on your stream, or is that has that passed by? I haven't seen as much as I
I
did before.
I definitely still do it, but there are less situations now. Usually, it used to be just when my Marowak would destroy a Registeel, because that happened so much at the beginning of season 2. Uh, But I still do it when it happens. It just doesn't happen that often anymore. But I think that's good. You don't want to overdo it.
What's your favorite part of, like, what brings you back to this game? Like, draws you to this game over anything else?
The community, definitely. I just think it's just a great community, so supportive. So we all have the same mindset, which is great. Yeah, I just like the community.
What have you thought about the kind of recent changes in terms of the megas, the I'm trying to think what the other controversial changes were. What do you think about megas in general, the way that they've been handled and now kind of rolled back?
Yeah, I don't know. I think on the one hand, um, I don't really care. Um, you know, it's the way megas are implemented in the game. They're totally uninteresting. Like they don't really give that much benefit. So honestly, I could care less if they're pay to win, so to say, because it's just an extra feature. It's for those that want to maximize their raid times or their gym takedown times or whatever. So honestly, for such a, let's call it a premium feature, it's okay if it costs a little bit of money if you want to make use of it. But it's pretty strange that they chose to do that for such a hyped up feature as megas. I think if it wouldn't not have been megas, it would have been all right. If it would have been like just a bonus on your Pokemon, maybe it would have been okay. Uh, but it's kind of disappointing that such a hyped up feature as megas got so uh, yeah got added in such a disappointing way, I guess.
Right. All right. Well, I think we are pretty much at the end of your time limit. If there's anything else you wanted to say to people, you can go ahead and feel free. But I'm sure that you have your own venue to do that. Obviously, everybody here is certainly well aware of your Twitch stream and anything else that they should look at.
No, I just want to thank you for having me. Thanks everyone for watching again, and yeah, I'll catch you on my stream.
Absolutely. I'm always over there when I can, but it's usually distracting me from work, so I do as much as I can, which isn't as much as it's more than I should.
I mean, there are definitely more important things.
There certainly are. All right. I think that being said, I am going to send the raid off. Let's just we'll send it off to Pogon, and I will close down for the night. And thanks for joining me.